like to call the April 23rd, 2012 regular meeting of the Frankfurt Board of Commissioners to order. I would like to ask that we all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance to our flag. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Wilder?
Here.
Commissioner Hedden? Here. Commissioner Turner?
Here.
Commissioner May?
Here.
Mayor Graham?
Here, we all present accounted for. It's good to have you with us here this early afternoon, evening. The first item on the agenda is for the minutes. We have had access to the minutes for the March 12th, 2012 work session, March 19th, 2012 work session, the March 26th, 2012 regular meeting. I would entertain now any motion pertaining to approval of the minutes.
So moved.
Got a motion to approve the minutes. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Commissioner Hedden. Any discussion or corrections, what have you? All right, please call the roll.
Commissioner Wilder?
Yes.
Commissioner Hedden? Yes. Commissioner Turner?
Yes.
Commissioner May?
Yes.
Mayor Graham?
Yes, so the minutes are approved. Next item on the agenda are ceremonial items. Recognize our city manager.
Thank you, Mayor. Would the Parks Director please come forward? There are some items under the parks.
Thank you. We're here today to present the winners of the logo contest for Reforest Frankfurt. And Reforest Frankfurt again this year was a huge success, great turnout. Planted over 2,000 trees at Cove Spring Park, top and bottom. So it was another great success led by Andrew Kamak and the whole forestry staff and Cove Spring staff. In third place was Kendra Miller. Is Kendra here? I'm not sure she's here. But anyway, Kendra Miller, and hang on to that for a minute. And in second place was Skylar Gibbons. I don't believe Skylar's here either to accept. But our first place winner is here for Reforest Frankfurt for the logo contest, and this is this year's logo, and it's presented to Tariq Onadu.
On behalf of the city of Frankfurt, I would certainly appreciate what you've done, and the logo, give them a check for it. Appreciate it. Thank you.
We have another ceremonial item today to present is the announcement of the grant award for our Children's Fantasy Forest at Dolly Graham Park. And I'd like Connie May and Rebecca Hall to come forward and tell you a little bit about that.
I was admonished to not talk too long, so I have a lot of the details in the handout there. So, recently I was at Reforest Frankfurt, and I heard the mayor tell a wonderful story about growing up in the woods around his neighborhood here in Frankfurt. I personally didn't do as many of the wild things as the mayor talked about doing, but I did grow up in Frankfurt, and I did grow up playing in the woods around Frankfurt. Some of you probably did too, I imagine. And I think you would agree that it's really good for all of us. There are a lot of children in Frankfurt who don't have access to woods to play in. But pretty soon, the kids in South Frankfurt are going to have a woods to play in. And it'll be close by. They'll be able to ride their bikes or walk there. It's going to be called the Fantasy Forest. And we're going to have neighborhood residents come and help us plant 4 really large areas with over 100 native trees, shrubs, and wildflowers. And we're going to have exhibits there, interactive exhibits and signs to teach the kids and adults about the importance of trees. But most importantly, it's going to be a place where kids will have easy access to nature, to play and learn and explore. So I have my email address there and also my telephone number. So I'd love to hear any comments or suggestions or questions that you might have. Or if you have anything right now, I'd be happy to entertain it too.
I think that's great.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. It's going to be wonderful.
I think I had an article in the paper today.
Oh, yeah, the name of the grant, I'm not very good at the grant thing. It's the first time I've been involved in a grant. The name of the grant is the People's Garden Grant. It's a federal grant that's given out through AC Trees, which is Alliance for Community Trees, and it's a wonderful nonprofit organization that helps people get neighborhood woods established. So this is hopefully the first of many neighborhood woods in Frankfurt. So thank you for your support.
Thanks,
Thank you
Connie.
so much.
Rebecca Hall was very instrumental in getting the grant together and helping us with that. So thank you all.
Okay, that's okay. The next item on the agenda are citizen comments, and the policy, of course, is that any citizen who would like to come and address the commission can do so. And what we'd like to request is if you could keep your comments to within about a 5-minute time limit, and then come to the microphone over to my right. And when you get there, it's just state your name for the record, and then address the commission. So do we have any citizen comments? We got one right here. Okay, please come forward.
Hello, my name is Julie Grant, and my purpose for being here today is my daughter. We live on Jackson Drive. My daughter is hard of hearing. She wears hearing aids. If her back is towards you, she does not understand what you're saying. My complaint is we have no sidewalks, and we're on the part of Jackson Drive that has the dead end. There's been posted up a speed limit sign, but I believe on a dead end that it should be lowered. And I'm also requesting for a sign that tells people there is a deaf child on that street. I've seen them throughout Frankfurt and Franklin County, and I've been told that those signs are being taken up, that they're not allowed to be put up, but for the safety of my child, these people have no consideration, and they live on that street. They have no consideration. They have children themselves, and they speed down through there. And I'm just concerned that what happened to her little friend, Charlie Simonis, is going to happen to my own child. I mean, we stand guard out there, but it's still, the parents can stand in the street, and the cars, they almost hit us as adults. And like I said, there's no sidewalks whatsoever up through there for the kids to be able to ride their bikes. You know, and you can't very well ride a bike in a yard. And I just think it would be safer for the children up there, and I would greatly appreciate a sign for my daughter.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Goins, would you like to make your comments, please?
Yes.
We are aware of your request, and there's been communication between our police chief and our public works director, and we plan to have a meeting, and this is one of the things on our agenda, and the meeting will be held this week. So
Okay.
we hope to be able to get back with you with some information very quickly.
Okay. Right. So is it a meeting that I need to attend?
No, not really. Chief or Mr. Hackbart, do either of you want to comment, or do you want to wait till after our meeting? Or
The signage issue is something that the Public Works Director will have to address through the traffic control manual. As far as the speed issue, of course, one of the topics that came up in the investigation of the accident that you talked about was about some of the speed limits on some of the streets in Frankfurt, and that's also something we need to talk about, the minimum level. Of course, once we discuss this, then we can get back to you and tell you what we discussed and what the decisions were.
Okay.
But until we meet, and in fact, I think it's tomorrow morning at 9:30, so.
Okay. And, I mean, like I said, there's other children on this dead-end part. There's 8 children that live in the house right next door to us. And I'm not coming down here to try to be a menace or be disrespectful, but, I've seen, there's a sign on Lebanon Road for a deaf child and Harveyland. So there are those signs in Franklin County District. But as far as in the city, I have yet to see any. Which I don't wish any child to be deaf or anything. But I just would like it to be a safer environment for the kids. And I greatly appreciate everything that you all can do about it.
Thank you for coming down.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Wilder.
There are any number of different ways to calm traffic in neighborhoods. Some of the ways include signage. Other ways include, curbs and low-grade speed bumps, etc. And I brought this up every year that I've been on the commission. I guess this is the 4th year that it's come up. And every time we bring this up and request additional signage in neighborhoods or speed bumps or other traffic calming measures, we always hear a litany of reasons as to why we can't do it. And for what it's worth, I'm just not prepared to take no for an answer anymore on this. Not after everything we've seen over the last week or two. I know there have to be things we can do. So whatever goes on in this meeting, and I'd really ask at least a majority of the commission to agree, we need to do whatever we can to start addressing some of these traffic calming measures, and not just your neighborhood, but in a number of neighborhoods around the city. And I know other people are here to talk to us about this today. But we've got to start actually doing stuff. I don't want to hear what we can't do. It's time for us to start talking about what we can do. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. All right, thank you. Anyone else? Come.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Ray Wingate, and I live on 149 Blue Ridge Drive here in Frankfurt. And I'm retired. I was a fireman and then an engineer on the Baltimore and Ohio, Chesapeake and Ohio, L&N, and the CSX railroads. And I'm prefacing my remarks for the subject. And the first thing that I learned on the railroad as a fireman was to expect anything to happen from any direction at any time and in any place. In other words, we have to be watching what's going on around us. And I'm afraid there are quite a few people who don't understand that principle. I came from, on last Monday, I came from, from home down Ridgeview to Schenkel, and at the intersection there, and this was about 10 or 11 o'clock in the morning, I saw a car turned over on its top, and I saw two people in the car turned upside down. Their seat belts were holding them, and it just grieved me that someone would have to go through that. I've been through something similar to that, and I never felt that I was the one who was wrong. I felt that I had been run into because the person just didn't care. And so I think that what we do, myself speaking, and what you do, requires that we understand that we can do something. We can't do everything, but we can do things in increments. And I looked over that situation, and from Hiawatha, which is an intersection that enters Schenkel from the side, it's about 30 yards from Ridgeview and Aztec streets there. And you don't see a car coming up from Schenkel, from Versailles Road toward up Schenkel there, until you're out on the road. And a lot of times a person driving a car will come flying up there like he's entitled to everything, and the streets don't exist. They come flying. And the same thing happens when you come off of Hiawatha onto Schenkel. They come flying up that hill, and it's a very deadly situation. I think of how that couple had their car turned over. If that had been a mother with her children in there, I'm sure there would have been fatalities. So the remedy, in my thinking, is the best would be to have a traffic light there, red, yellow, and green, and that would give visibility more so at that intersection, and give a little early warning for people to slow down in driving their car coming up on Ridgeview. And I came out of Hiawatha in my car, retracing that, and you have to go about, I'd say about 15 yards before you get a good view of a car coming out of Ridgeview. And it's I guess it's worth thinking about. But I think that a traffic light would be the best. Right now it has a stop sign on Ridgeview before you go on to Schenkel. Now I have come around that stop sign on Schenkel, onto Schenkel from Ridgeview, and got over the hill, and in no time there was a car right on my bumper on the back, just flying. He'd come flying over that hill, and I never saw him until when I did see him, he was way up on Schenkel, and I never expected to have him riding my bumper before I had gone 15 or 20 yards, but he was. And I think that a traffic light would be a wonderful asset for that intersection. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Goins, like to-
Mr. Hackbart, I don't know, is that in our jurisdiction, the Schenkel intersection with Hiawatha and that area? As far as stoplights?
Yes, that is in the city's jurisdiction, and the city Public Works conducted a traffic study at that intersection probably 3 or 4 years ago, so I could pull that study and bring that to our traffic committee meeting as well. But at the time, as I remember, it did not warrant a traffic signal at that intersection.
Okay, Commissioner Wilder.
If I could, because I know not everybody was here, but we discussed this intersection a couple of years ago. I brought this up. I even brought some pictures for the previous commissioner for staff, because there's a grandmother who lives right across from Schenkel, right across from where Ridgeview hits Schenkel right there, and her grandkids play in her lawn. And I brought in images of tire tracks going through the yard, tire tracks going through her yard, because she has seen, it is an accident-prone intersection, and we have seen car accidents go all the way into the street, or through the street into her yard. And we had this conversation a couple of years ago, and it was explained the traffic study was explained. It was explained that we couldn't really do anything in the intersection at that time. I asked that we at least maybe put a curb up along the edge to at least try to prevent cars from getting into her yard. It was explained that that wasn't really feasible either. I mean, so I had to tell her that if the city wouldn't do anything about this, that I would. And I went out that summer and helped her plant a row of shrubs along the edge of her yard just to try to keep the cars out. It seems pretty obvious that there are a lot of accidents happening at that intersection. And even if the flow doesn't warrant a traffic light, that area of Schenkel is still wide open, and it seems like it could at least warrant a stop sign or something. But again, and this is what I'm serious, I'm begging the rest of the commission to on the record, if we have to vote on a resolution even, to agree with this. But regardless of what any studies say, I mean, we need to start putting our foot down and calming traffic in some of these areas. And it seems at the very least we can insist that there be, even if a stoplight isn't feasible, it seems at the very least we could get a stop sign right there, because that would go a long way. I mean, the shrubs we set up, they kept these cars. They kept the car that just flipped over out of Miss Wells's yard this time around, but the shrubs obviously didn't stop the accident. And if we could calm traffic right there and get cars to slow down for that intersection, it seems like that would really go a long way, because this isn't the first time this has happened, and it won't be the last unless we put our feet down and do something about it. I mean, please sound off on this.
Ms. Hannon.
And I agree, Commissioner Wilder, that something needs to be done, even if we have to start somewhere. But in your all's meeting, Chief Wilhoit, can you bring a list of the most accident-prone sites in Frankfurt? Is that going to be part of the discussion, to start looking at what areas of our town have the most accidents or complaints of traffic flow?
I can do that. I can do you one better. And
Okay.
just tell you where it is. US 60 from one end of the county to the other. Actually, you can get that information online from the state police. There's a map that you can pull up for accident sites. That's public record.
Could you email us that link? When you get a chance?
Yes, I will. But I will have traffic statistics for these locations that we talked about. Be able to pull that information out.
Commissioner Turner.
I want to just voice my support for doing whatever it is we can to try to ease some of these issues. I'm familiar with the intersection that Mr. Wingate's speaking about, and it is a dangerous area. And so we need to do whatever we can, and I'm interested to see what recommendations come back. But I agree with Commissioner Wilder in that we need to think about what we can do, not what we can't do.
Mayor, I'll just ask, I guess maybe we could just ask for staff to provide, or just, if you want to do it now, maybe some of this is more towards Public Works, why the certain regulations have prevented city staff from making recommendations to put up stop lights or stop signs or different types of signs. Could you maybe just, for the public's benefit, explain, when you mentioned the federal highway traffic, forgot what it's
The
called.
Manual of Uniform Traffic Control Devices.
Yes.
That's what.
Maybe you could just, so everybody can
Sure.
hear what has prevented your recommendation or your department's recommendations previously, since that's come up.
Sure. The city goes by the Uniform of Traffic Control Devices, and that's a document that cities across the United States use, so that a street sign in Frankfurt is the same as a street sign in Philadelphia, so that drivers, when they drive through the country, see the same signage, and they recognize what a stop sign looks like, and that's universal. And in that manual, it specifies which signs are acceptable to put up. And in the case of the slow children at play sign, for example, that sign is not recognized in the manual. And so there's two problems with that sign. It's not an enforceable sign for the police department to do anything on. I mean, it's not a speed limit to where you're speeding and you're going to get a ticket if you speed. There's no, it just says, by the way, there's children playing, but it doesn't really give the police any authority to enforce anything. So I guess the concern would be to put those signs up everywhere, and it kind of diminishes maybe a meaning of that sign. It would if there was a specific area, but where do you stop the request, and then what does that sign really give the police some empowered? So I guess that's why it's not used. A, it's not in the manual, and B, it doesn't really give any regulatory authority to the police.
Mr. May?
And I don't mean to, I'll just ask one more question. So, but that manual, does that prohibit municipalities or local jurisdictions from being able to put those signs up? Is there a federal regulation that prohibits that, or is it just, the manual has suggestions? And I'm not trying to put you on the spot,
I guess the concern would be if you put that sign up, and are you saying children okay to play in the streets, so everybody slow down? And what does that tell the police department if they are playing? You know, what does that message say? I think it's confusing to the traveling public, and it might give us false sense of security to the person who has a small child that's playing out in the yard that, hey, they're okay. I put that street sign up yesterday. I don't have to go check on them every 5 minutes. That would be my concern as a parent.
Are you finished with Commissioner May?
Oh, yes, thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Hedden and then Commissioner Wilder.
What if it came through a neighborhood association versus just from a city commission standpoint, but a neighborhood association came up, like even the lady here tonight on a dead-end street, wanting her child's deaf, could you just, honking your horn's really she's not gonna hear it. But putting this sign up, even if it's not enforceable, if the kid's playing in the street, it still gives the mother and the father and the other neighbors a little peace of mind, knowing that the sign is there for that child.
But is that a false sense of security for the parent, saying, oh, it's okay, we have a sign up? That's my concern.
I mean, I guess it's twofold, One, you have the peace of mind, but is it a false sense of security?
So that's the problem with the sign. What does it mean? It's confusing on what it even means. As a public agency, I don't know what that sign means. And it doesn't give the police any direction either, what to do if someone, are they violating that or not? You know, it doesn't give any.
Well, I guess some of it comes through, like even if it came through neighborhood associations, that even in Louisville, you know, they have, what, 36 mayors and 36 districts, and some of their mayor's districts, you know, their neighborhoods are very family-friendly, so they put up the family signs. Even though it's not enforceable, it's kind of what they're kind of attracting and showing is that, you know, this is a family district here. I mean, it's more devil's advocate than anything. I'm not, but it's a peace of mind I think that certain people want, and it's something that people in the community want to be seen. Is that, you know, I have kids on this street. Yes, we have sidewalks. Yes, there's cars that zoom down my street. But maybe this sign, it's not going to slow them down, but it may give my child one more car to drive by versus, you know, where they're not in the middle of the street and they can't hear it.
All right, Commissioner Wilder and then Commissioner Turner.
I mean, this is like I said, this is the fourth year in a row that maybe we didn't have it last year. Maybe this is just the third time we've had this conversation. But I mean, there's a valid point to be made about, I think, you don't want to get signs up that encourage kids to play in the streets. But I mean, I have seen neighborhoods with signage that kind of just identifies the neighborhood as being family friendly, just in a pretty kind of generic sense. And I think the inclination of drivers in those areas is to slow down. I mean, even though it cuts both ways, but my sense is always that encourages people to slow down more than it encourages people to let their kids play in the street. I mean, kind of on a separate issue, I think that a slow deaf child sign, or, you know, slow down deaf child, I mean, I just absolutely feel like it's appropriate to get those up in the appropriate places. But I mean, there are even other traffic calming measures. I mean, I know that traditional speed bumps wreak havoc with, I mean, the real problem with those is snow plowing, obviously. So, you know, like the speed bumps in front of, it's an easy one, Kroger on the west side has some pretty bumpy speed bumps, right? You obviously can't plow that street, but I mean, we've also all seen speed bumps that are just a much more mild, low grade. I mean, they're maybe as wide as this table or wider, and they're not going to knock out your suspension or really nail you if you go over them too fast, but they'll let you know you're going too fast, and they do encourage people to slow down. And that's I mean, the point is that there's a whole wide variety of traffic calming measures we can explore, and even those, my understanding is that those, you know, a low grade speed bump like that encourages folks to slow down while still making it possible to plow the streets. I mean, or there's even essentially temporary speed bumps. I mean, speed bumps that you can just lay out that really are a bump, that, you know, we can move around town from one area to another, that we could also lift up if it became necessary for plowing. But there's other things we can do. That's all.
I just want to quickly comment on the children at play sign. I mean, I don't know in terms of what the effect it would have on parents of children, but as a driver, it is certainly something that, you know, I pay attention to when I see that sign. It makes me more aware. Oftentimes, right after I see the sign, I'll look down, make sure I'm monitoring my speed, and look around to see if there are any kids in the area. So I view the sign more as awareness for the driver than a sense of comfort for the parent, because who you're really trying to communicate to is to the driver. That, wait a second, there are children in this neighborhood, be extra cautious. And that's what the message I interpret the sign as, and I never knew that there was a question as to what that sign meant. I've always viewed it as be very cautious as you're driving through this area. So I would support the utilization of that sign, and I think that it would help in a lot of neighborhoods. So, thank you, Mayor.
Okay, Mr. Goins, you heard the discussions, making comments?
Yes, we will meet tomorrow and take all these things into consideration.
Okay, anybody else?
Mr. President.
Okay.
Can I say just a couple of words?
Yes.
Okay, you got no, citizen comment,
Thank you.
all right.
My name's Willis Wells, and I'm a friend of the grandmother that Mr. Wilder was speaking to. I want to say two things. If you look in the State Journal and you look real close, you can see my taillights. I was visiting her that morning, and it's less than 5 feet away from where that vehicle is turned upside down. They had to sweep glass, wash glass, and everything out of her driveway. And so hopefully y'all can get something. The other thing about the traffic count, okay, 3 years old. And since that traffic count, you've got Peaks Mill Elementary School with school buses coming up there. You want to see a school bus hit something like this? And on Schenkel, you got Central Screw, the old Central Screw building, 3 shifts. And I know because I live out in Ravencrest and I cut through that way, but I don't when those shifts are changing because it's back-to-back cars. So I've seen cars in a driveway and everything. And a lot of you noticed that last year when the police was chasing that car, how it cut right through, right out Aztec into that wooden fence and hit a guy's trailer. So, I mean, it's been going on for years now, and traffic is just getting worse. Maybe we need to do a new traffic count from Wade Ridgeview's growed up, Peaks Mill, school buses, parents, and everything coming through there.
Okay, sir, would you mind for the clerk to repeat your name again so they have it?
Willis Wells.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right. Any other citizen comments? Okay, sir.
I'm Jared Bailey. I want to speak to you about one of the items on the agenda tonight, 4.1, regarding the second reading on the ordinance relating to personnel. I really hadn't planned on speaking tonight, but this may be the only opportunity I get to speak against the sustainability position that's being created and ultimately going to be refilled. In the spirit of full disclosure, I am running for City Commission, and I have been very vocal about my opposition to this position, and I still oppose it. Based on the background listed in the agenda, at the low end of the salary for this position plus benefits, we're talking about $53,000 plus. On the high end, we're talking over $80,000 plus. I really thought we were in a budget situation where we couldn't deal with our current employees, and yet here we are trying to hire new employees. I understand that the background says that this position is going to be supported through savings, but I've yet to see or hear how those savings are going to be calculated. Is someone going to go around and measure the meetings that go down? Is someone going to measure the utility bills? I don't know of any way we can fully and accurately monitor and support a position that's based purely on savings. If we want to hire a position, let's hire a position and say we have the funding to deal with it. And whatever savings comes in, we'll put it in the budget and move forward. Let's not play this game with the citizens of Frankfurt that we're going to save money to pay for a position. That's not how you budget. You budget based on money's coming in, and there's no way you're going to verify the money's coming in for this position. Additionally, I'd like to mention a couple of comments about ordinance on agenda item 4.2 relating to the garbage and the landlord activity that's been going on for the last month or so. I fully support what the landlords are trying to do about the fine situation and applaud what they've been coming to you trying to work something out on their behalf. But there's also folks that we are not paying attention to, and that's those tenants that need another size can that for whatever reason their landlords won't allow them to request a different size can. For instance, if a family of 5 receives a smaller can and they have 2 or 3 kids using diapers, those small cans just aren't large enough. Even using recycling as much as they possibly can, it's just not big enough. And for the life of me, if we can track those tenants and chase them down to find them, why can't we not find those same tenants and allow them to pay the yardage fee for the cans and $4 a month or $4 a month, whatever they can afford? It doesn't make sense to me. We can chase them down on one hand, but yet we can't chase them down on the other hand. We need to give these tenants the opportunity to request the size can that they need to fully implement their yardage. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Wilder.
I'd like to respond to both of those points, Mayor. Regarding the sustainability coordinator, I mean, the city put together an energy team a few years ago in an effort to do this work ourselves, and that energy team is composed of department heads and other city staff who've been trying to do this work for a few years now, and they're all very smart, and they mean well, and they've done a very good job of finding, you know, a number of common sense cost savings, like turning off the lights and using water more responsibly, etc. But none of them are energy experts. I mean, in a nutshell, in terms of this idea that the sustainability coordinator wouldn't be able to track the savings and quantify the savings, I mean, this isn't a position that we're just coming up with. I mean, this has been done in hundreds, if not thousands, of other large cities and small cities and entire states and universities and private businesses, etc. And all the other folks who do this manage to hire professionals who are able to track and quantify that savings, and that's an important part of the job description, and it's part of the job description that staff are preparing. And they're all able to prove that these positions are able to save vastly more money than are invested in the salaries in the first place. And so my question for all the folks who are criticizing this position, I've got 3 questions. One is that if entire states and large cities and small cities and universities and private businesses have all been proven on the record to save significant amounts of money by hiring professional sustainability coordinators, then why should we expect Frankfurt to be any different? If they can all do it, I don't see why we can't do it. Secondly, we've seen lots and lots and lots of examples of where this has worked elsewhere, but nobody's provided any examples of this failing to work elsewhere. So if this can't work, then people need to pony up and give examples of this not working. And third, if it's possible to save this money in-house without hiring an expert, then why hasn't the city succeeded after years of trying? None of the critics of this position have been able to answer any of these questions, much less all of them. So I think the data is pretty clear that we can save vastly more money than we're investing in a salary to do this. And so in the point about the garbage cans, that actually is a fair question with a degree of nuance. The catch is that we can't really chase tenants down very well. And so that's why the ordinance we're passing requires landlords and tenants to actually report to us if the tenant is to assume responsibility for the garbage bill. So in other words, we're not chasing anybody down, they're coming to us and giving us their information. And in discussions with the landlords and with their representative, Mr. Bullock, who's here today, the question of allowing the tenants to actually even assume responsibility for the entire fee and to request cart sizes, it came up, but it just wasn't really feasible from a city standpoint because we only bill on a 6-month cycle. And if we were sending bills out every month, that would be one thing, but as it is, if we have a tenant responsible for the bill who's in the apartment for the first 3 months of the 6-month cycle and then moves to Poughkeepsie, then who do we bill for that second 3 months? Then it does get very hard to track the tenant down, et cetera. So we've set up this. I'm glad you asked the question because you raised a point that I think lots of landlords need to be aware of, which is that this application that we're set to approve today, and I hope we do approve it, does in many ways give landlords the opportunity to pass not just responsibility for code enforcement along to the tenants, but also responsibility for the cart size, et cetera. Now that's something the tenants have to work out with landlords, but if I were a landlord, well, not if, my wife and I are landlords. We have a home that we rent out in South Frankfurt. But I would recommend to landlords that they, if they don't want to pay their tenants fines, and if their tenant needs a larger size can than the landlord is providing, then have the tenant sign the form, have the tenant assume responsibility for code enforcement, and then that gives the landlord a mechanism to, if the tenant wants a larger can, that gives the landlord a mechanism to give the tenant responsibility for code enforcement, and then to work the fee into their rent. Because I think it is only fair that it is only fair that we not put this entire onus on the landlords, but there is an extent to which we have to ask, under the circumstances, in the absence of monthly billing, we have to ask the landlords to kind of be the middleman between the city and their tenants. Because in lots of cases, we don't know, some landlords are good landlords and they let the city know when they have tenants. But as a general rule, we don't necessarily know. We always know who the owner of a given property is. We don't always know who the occupant of a given property is. And we can't know who the occupants are or the tenants are unless the landlords report the tenants to us. And so that's why, under the circumstances, we kind of have to ask the landlords to be a little bit of a go-between between the city and tenants. I know that's a roundabout answer to your question, Jerry. But thank you for raising the question. And in an ideal world, I think I would like to see us be able to adjust the billing structure down the line so that we can even further separate landlord and tenant responsibilities. But as of right now, under the circumstances, we talked with the landlords, we listened to their concerns, and we did the best we could to come up with a compromise that fits the city's needs, that's fair to landlords, that's fair to the tenants, and that's fair to the public across the board.
You triggered a question for me. When you made mentioned that about how many on the sustainability coordinator, all the places it's succeeding, and I really don't know. But how many? Do you know how many places in Kentucky it's succeeding right now? Sustainability coordinator. Back some time ago, and it may have changed now, but I believe a year or two ago, Lexington had a sustainability coordinator. They may still have, but I know they eliminated the position at one time within the last year or so. I'm pretty sure of that. Where in Kentucky is this really succeeding? The sustainability coordinator.
I'm not aware of Lexington eliminating a sustainability coordinator.
Well, I'm not really sure. I'm just saying, at one time I think they had one. It seemed like I read at one time maybe it was an ombudsman position, not a sustainability.
I think it was ombudsman, although
Yeah.
I have heard recently that they are about to hire their first sustainability coordinator.
So. Other places in the state, that it's been succeeding.
I can provide an answer to that. One of the particular areas in Kentucky that this has been utilized is in the city of Louisville, where they've worked with the partnership of a green city. And from first-hand accounts of people that I've talked to at the University of Louisville, at MSD, or at the city, it has been wildly successful, and they have been very pleased with it. Now, granted, Louisville is much different than the city of Frankfurt, much larger population, much larger budget, but certainly if they can see some success from it, we can try to get that same success here, and I think that we can. I'm optimistic that we can.
I was aware Louisville had this, but I was not aware of other cities that had that, that's all.
Okay. And if you, and what happens is if you limit it just to Kentucky, then you're narrowing your field of cities
Sure.
significantly.
Yeah, I got you. Yeah. Okay. Let's see, where are we right now? Any other citizen comments? Okay, then we'll just move on to ordinances. Mr. Moore?
Yes, sir. Ordinance 4.1 by title, an ordinance amending Chapter 37, Personnel, City Employees, Section 37.31 of the City of Frankfurt Code of Ordinances. Summary. This ordinance amends Chapter 37, Section 37.31 of the City of Frankfurt Code of Ordinances to add the full-time position of Sustainability Coordinator, to add 6 job classifications relating to the sewer department, to include classifications with civilian pay grades to accommodate 4 fire department temporary duty assignments, to add a job classification to revise and clarify new duties resulting from consolidation of job responsibilities of E911 emergency management, and to correct typographical errors in said section.
Okay, we have, do I have a motion pertaining to ordinance 4.1? Move to approve. Got a motion to approve, Commissioner Wilder, second. Commissioner May, second. Any discussion? Commissioner Hidden.
I see that on this, it also says that the only position expected to be filled in the short term is the Sustainability Coordinator. We also have the Fire Marshal, who hasn't been hired since he retired, was that August? There's a Fire Training Officer, which it's my understanding is retiring in July or August this year. There's a Fire Emergency Medical Services Director, who is my understanding is retiring in July or August of this year. And the new position of the Fire Public Education Officer. Are those not to be filled in the short term, Chief?
No, I think that was maybe some confusing wording on there. The training officer and the EMS director, yes, they will be filled upon retirement. I think that is more referring to new positions, was it not, Randy?
I think so.
And maybe it wasn't worded that way, but yes, my intent is to fill both those positions when they retire, actually a little before retire, because there has to be some transitional training in there. And the fire marshal, I was waiting for 37 to be adopted, which addresses the option to go outside, either internal or external, which is being done theoretically tonight. So once that's done, and within the week, I will be revising the job description to reflect those changes, to re-advertise for that position and fill the fire marshal's job as soon as possible. But I really couldn't fill it until the changes in 40 were made regarding the salary, because I didn't want to change something in midstream, only to then tell the position, the person holding the fire marshal position, oh, now there's a change, you can't be promoted, we're changing the salary, etc.
Do you already have someone in there?
No.
Doing Fire Marshal?
Me. I'm wearing the fire marshal's hat.
Okay. You don't have a state fire marshal there on Fridays?
Yes. He comes in and does paperwork on Fridays for the state fire marshal, not for me.
Okay.
I just give him office space. And he does assist me upon my request when I need it.
Okay.
Under certain issues. But since Gary retired in July, yes, I've been assuming the fire marshal duties and.
Okay. So through my clarification, those jobs also need to get filled once they step down.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes, they have to be filled. And what did you say about public education officer?
And that's a new position, correct? The Fire Public Education Officer? You don't have one of those right now?
No, that was an existing position since '03. And when the pub ed officer retired last July, we did not fill it, and I have no plans to fill it. We're saving the money for that position and having other personnel assume those duties. The reason it's in there is because that was one of those that got left out of the civilian side, if we did have to fill it from the outside. So that's the only reason that's back in there.
Okay.
So it's an authorized position, but going unfilled.
All right. Thank you, Chief.
Any other comments?
Well,
Go ahead.
the other one would be, when we talked about the sewer budget, are those two jobs that we talked about with the sewer listed in here? Okay.
Anything else, Commissioner?
No, sir. Thank you.
Commissioner Wilder?
Thank you, Mayor. Just one final comment regarding this position. We have really excellent city staff, and they're very good at what they do. But we currently simply don't have anyone with the training and expertise to do this particular work. Other cities and entities are saving plenty of money by hiring professionals to do this. And nobody's been able to even hypothetically explain why Frankfurt might be any different. The city, as far as I'm concerned, has been unnecessarily wasting resources and money for years by not investing in conservation. And I think the simple fact of the matter is that if we had done this 4 years ago, our current budgets would be easier to balance. We can't go back in time and correct the mistakes of the past, but at the very least we can insist that we do the right thing going forward and make future budgets for future commissions easier to balance. And I'm very proud to support this position.
Any other comment? Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Wilder?
Yes.
Commissioner Hadden?
With the information that supposedly is able to be put on a website for free, I'm saying no, that I think we could probably get someone to come in and get us at least the data to see what fruit we can collect at the bottom, so I'm voting no.
Commissioner Turner?
Yes.
Commissioner May?
Yes.
Mayor Graham?
No. So 3-2, ordinance 4.1 is adopted. Okay, Mr. Moore.
Ordinance 4.2 by title, an ordinance amending Chapter 50, Garbage, Solid Waste, Sections 50.01, 50.10, and 50.13 of the City of Frankfurt Code of Ordinances.
Okay, do we have a
By
motion?
summary, this ordinance amends Chapter 50 of the City of Frankfurt Code of Ordinances by specifically amending Sections 50.01, 50.10, and 50.13.
Do I have a motion pertaining to ordinance 4.2?
Yes.
So moved.
Commissioner Turner moves to approve it. Do I have a second?
Second.
Commissioner Hadden? Commissioner Wilder?
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to make one comment regarding this general subject. First of all, I really want to thank Mr. Bullock and the Landlords Association in general for coming to us with their concerns, and not just coming with the concerns, but also coming with some proactive suggestions on ways to address the problem, and for discussing it with us, and for being willing to compromise and come to terms with a mutually agreeable solution. There's a lot of people who've really been dogging the commission lately for ignoring the public when it comes to the garbage program, even though we have been actively seeking public input throughout this entire process. We held a series of public forums across town asking for public input. We put the matter to a public vote last April. We spent a full year discussing it in public and accepting comment before implementing the program. And people did express a lot of concerns over that time. But I just really think it's worth noting that we haven't ignored the concerns. I mean, we've listened to them, and we've addressed them, and we've done what we can to incorporate them into the ordinance. So, for example, I'd say that most of the phone calls and letters and even emails we received were from elderly and disabled constituents who were concerned because they have to set their garbage out in bags because they can't safely handle carts. And there were rumors going around, clearly politically motivated, but there were rumors going around that we might actually fine or even jail these constituents for not being able to comply with the program. And we had folks calling us, I mean, in tears, literally in tears, just terrified because they were afraid we might actually penalize them for being elderly or disabled. And obviously, there was never any truth to that, and there's an exception in the ordinance to accommodate folks with physical or even environmental hardships who can't handle the carts. But that's just another example of us not ignoring the concerns of the public, but taking them into account, balancing them against actual research and sound facts and trying to come to a mutual agreement. But I bring that up really just to make 2 points. The first is that obviously people shouldn't necessarily believe all the rumors they hear about the commission and about the decisions we make. A lot of these rumors are very political in nature and should be taken with a large grain of salt. And secondly, the folks spreading rumors like this, I think, are doing the city a really grave disservice, because they're essentially putting up a wall between the public and between the commission and discouraging folks from even coming to us with their concerns in the first place. I mean, because as we've seen with the landlords and as we saw with everybody who called looking for an exemption to the program, when people come to us with their concerns and we listen to them, then we can actually use that process to better the policy we're creating. I mean, this is a two-way street. So when people come to us, especially when they come as proactively as the Landlord Association did, and come not just with concerns but also with ideas, then we can take that into account and use that to craft better policy to serve the entire community as a whole. But when people buy into rumors that we're not even willing to listen to them, and they don't come to us at all, then they're really depriving the city of a golden opportunity to take their concerns into account and to craft better policy as a result. And so I'm saying that not to defend us, but to encourage everybody who's listening right now to please come to us with your concerns, come to us with your questions. We want to make this policy better. We're amending it right now in response to the concerns that were brought to us by the Landlords Association. If anybody out there still has legitimate concerns with this program, they should really come share them with us, because we want to hear them and we want to take them into account. Thank you, Mayor.
Just one other thing to echo onto that as a commission, we compromised to make this ordinance a starting point, that we knew, and I think the rest of the city now knows, that something needed to change with the department, and instead of going one neighborhood at a time, let's go ahead and move the program forward by initiating the pay-as-you-go program. And this is a work in progress. It's not set in stone. It's an ordinance. All it takes is 2 readings and 3 votes each time, and it can be redone. So, as Commissioner Wilder said, if you're still having problems, please don't hesitate to contact the city or contact us.
Commissioner Turner.
I just want to echo what my fellow commissioners have said, and that in anything that City Hall does or the Commission does, it's always a work in progress. And I applaud the Landlords Association for recognizing that and bringing their concerns, and I think they would agree that it was a pretty good working relationship, and we ultimately came to this compromise. So I want to thank all of you all for coming. You, particularly Mr. Bullock, you've been very helpful. And let's keep our fingers crossed and hope that this helps you all out and helps the tenants out as well.
Anyone else? Mr. Goins.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Hackbart and his staff had some comments they wanted to talk about enforcing this policy.
Just an update. We bought the carts from Toter this past January and have them delivered. We're having some issues with Toter on the scanner that we were supposed to receive in this purchase, so we can track the carts with the residents, and it has the RFID tag in the handle. To date, we have not had those scanners that we can use delivered, so we're trying to manage this database through a spreadsheet program manually. We're working with Rob Moore, City Attorney, and still with the representative from Toter, try to get that worked out. But we just want to bring this issue to you. We're kind of behind the 8 ball. We're 3 or 4 months into the program without this system of handling tenants, owners, addresses, RFID numbers. All this is kind of in the process, and we're working through trying to get something resolved very quickly. It's just been still up in the air right now. We just want to bring that forward. On the bag issue, we have, come July 1st, another round of bags to give out to the tenants and residents. And our idea was two ways. We've talked to Kroger's. We have worked out to where we're going to put the bags in the Kroger stores and in pick packs. So we'll have 3 locations in Frankfurt where residents can either purchase those. And one idea was to maybe send out some type of voucher with their bill, so that if you're up to date on your billing, you'll receive a voucher from the city and you would redeem that at Kroger's. And they would give you a roll of bags for your next 6 months. And that seems right now on track the way we're going to go. The other option would be where we'd set up maybe booths at each store, and for 1 month, maybe on a Saturday morning, the city would hand out the bags for people that have the same voucher. So we're trying to figure out which is the best way to go. With the city giving out the bags, we could sit down and talk to the residents that had questions one-on-one, versus, they're not going to be able to get answers from the cashiers at the Kroger store. So those are 2 possible options we just wanted to present to you today of how we're going to give out the next round of bags. We have the truck on order. It comes in July or August, so that's going to be in place for the automatic truck. And we have the money for the next round of bags to put out. So that's kind of where we are. Just a quick update.
Mr. Wilder.
I can't only speak for myself, but in terms of the decision on how to distribute the bags, that's something I'm confident that you all can figure out what's best for you all. But thank you for your hard work, and please keep us updated.
Another commission.
They never sent the scanners?
Commissioner Higgins.
I'm sorry, they never sent the scanners? Potter never sent the scanners? There's supposed to be 2 of them, wasn't there?
There are 2 scanners, but they don't do what we need them to do. We need a scanner that will read the address to the RFID tag that's in the handle to the hot stamp on the can of the can number.
Okay.
So we need that when we exchange out carts. I think we exchanged out 1,800 carts to date through request, smaller, larger, just a variety of questions. So we need that scanner in order to manage this inventory. And what we were told in the bid and what we received are 2 different items, and so we're still working out something with Toter so that we can manage this cart. So we have 20,000 carts in inventory, so right now we're just kind of do it on a spreadsheet manually. So.
Question. When this is going to pass, so we're going to pass this in a few minutes.
Right.
Yeah.
I just want to, we don't have that database to where it's going to be this agreement. We're going to have to figure out a way to how to incorporate this another piece of information into how to manage this system.
So that would be a period of time you'll be in flux.
That's correct.
And people should understand that. That's what you're trying to say, right?
That's correct.
Yes. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Joe.
Thanks.
Okay, any other comments? Call the roll.
Commissioner Wilder?
Yes.
Commissioner Hadden?
Yes.
Commissioner Turner?
Yes.
Commissioner May?
Vote no. Can I explain my no vote, Mayor? This one, I'm voting no, not because I don't support help the landlords, because I was opposed to the ordinance on the front end, so I'm just consistently voting against this, and I've explained that to Mr. Bullock, that it's not against the fine proposal that you worked out with city staff, but to be consistent, I'm voting no.
Mayor Graham?
No. So it's 3-2. So the ordinance 4.2 is adopted.
Ordinance 4.3, this is the first reading.
Thank you.
By title, an ordinance providing for the city of Frankfort's purchase of vacant, unimproved property within the city for redevelopment purposes. Summary, this ordinance establishes a program to redevelop vacant, unimproved properties located in the city by authorizing the city to release city liens existing against the property in return for the conveyance of the property to the city. Any other liens existing against the property would have to be released so that when the property is conveyed to the city, it is not subject to any liens. The property would then be sold by sealed bid or auction.
Okay, without objection, we'll accept the first reading. Okay?
What if I,
Comment?
if I could just explain, lest anybody think that this is an ordinance authorizing the city to actually purchase dilapidated property. It wouldn't really work like that. The city wouldn't be spending any money to purchase these properties. We're talking about properties that are in a state of blight or disrepair, that have substantive liens on the property. Those liens make it cost ineffective for private property owners to fix the property up. And so we've got circumstances where folks own buildings that are in a state of disrepair and they simply can't afford to fix them. And and nobody else could afford to buy them and fix them because they have to pay more than the property's worth because of the liens associated with the property. And so all we're talking about doing is giving those owners the option to transfer that property to the city. We remove the liens that we can't collect anyway, that we're not collecting anyway, and then we turn around and the city actually does receive some money when we sell the property at auction. When we do that, we're selling it cheaply to folks who are interested in restoring and reinvesting in the property. And then after they do that, the property value goes up, the city brings in more property tax revenue, etc. So in other words, the city wouldn't spend any money. We would collect money from auction sales that we wouldn't otherwise collect in liens. This is really just a way to incentivize. This is a way to help channel property that's falling apart away from folks who, for one reason or another, can't take care of it towards folks who can, which is essentially just an economic booster. But I didn't want anybody to think that the city was going into the real estate business and purchasing any of this property, because that's absolutely not what would happen.
Okay, Mr. Moore?
Ordinance 4.4, and this is also a first reading. This is an ordinance regulating the purchase, possession, retail sale, and use of fireworks within the city of Frankfurt. And if I could make one note, and that is, of course, the City Commission discussed this at last Monday's meeting. In Section 5, based upon discussions that were had between the city and the county, in Section 5, paragraph 3, that provides when consumer fireworks may be used after 10 o'clock at night. And of course, those days are basically New Year's Eve and also the 4th of July. You'll notice that some additional language was added which allows the fire chief to make a determination that if there's a high hazard condition, such as a drought, when there's a high danger of fire and danger to people from fire, the chief would have the ability to determine that the fireworks could not be used on even the days set forth in Section 5. And again, that's just if there's a high hazard drought condition where you don't want the possibility of a bad fire burning people's houses down.
Okay, without objection, we'll accept the first reading. 4.4.
Thanks, Rob.
The next one is 4.5, and 4.5 by title. This is, proper ordinance in front of me. This is an ordinance amending Chapter 40, Police Department and Fire Department, Sections 40.02 through 40.06, 40.15 through 40.17, 40.19, 40.21 through 40.24, 40.30, 40.32 through 40.40, excuse me, 40.32 through 40.38, 40.49, 40.52 through 40.53, and 40.57 of the City of Frankfort's Code of Ordinances. And by summary, this ordinance amends Chapter 40 of the Frankfurt Code of Ordinances to organize and update the provisions of the city's Civil Service Board, appointments, promotional processes for police and fire positions, and various sections relating to the police department and the fire department. This ordinance revises sections 40.02 through 40.06, 40.15 through 40.17, 40.19, 40.21 through 40.24, 40.30, 40.32 through 40.38, 40.49, 40.52 through 40.53, and 40.57 of Chapter 40 in order to improve the selection processes, clarify roles and responsibilities, reflect new laws enacted since the original Chapter 40 was created, and amend the organization of the chapter to improve its readability. Now, there is one item. Chief Posich came up to me just before the meeting and indicated that there was one minor revision, and I think that's something the commission should hear.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to bring it to the commission's attention before the second reading next month. We would like to make a minor amendment to 40.24. As you know, we allowed the promotional process to go forward under the current existing chapter, and as a result, we're going to have 2 firefighters who will make the eligibility list, but under the new Chapter 40, regarding the required time and grade before they could be promoted from firefighter to sergeant, even though they're going to make the list, they would not be eligible for promotion. One of them would be 2 years, the other about 2.5 years. So it's really not fair to them that they've gone through the process as we told them they were allowed to do. They've done well. They're going to make the list, but under the new chapter, once it's adopted, that says effective July 1, their name would be on the list, but they wouldn't be eligible for promotion. So we would like to make a minor amendment to 40.24 prior to the second reading to allow those personnel who tested and made the current list, what's going to be the current list, under the current process, to remain on the promotional list for this promotional eligibility period. And I'll, of course, get together with the city solicitor as to the wording on that. And we've discussed this with the HR director, and he understands and is in favor of that also.
Commissioner May.
Do we need to make that amendment tonight so we can get its first reading, since it does change?
It sounds to me like that's something that we would want in black and white when we have the first reading, so that otherwise we probably have to have 2 additional readings. And I'm not sure what the schedule is for the commission in getting this in place. So, excuse me for just a minute. And so I'm saying that if you have the language that you want to propose, the commission could consider that tonight. Otherwise, we'll need to add it before the next reading, and the next reading would probably be the first reading.
Could we go?
No.
At our, if you do you have it?
No, this actually just came up today to realize that those 2 personnel their scores are valid enough that they will make the list. So no, I haven't prepared any language. I'm anticipating there'll probably be 1 or 2 sentences in 40.24, but no, I haven't prepared a draft to that effect.
I may be able to propose something that'll fix this. That's pretty simple, I think. And I don't know if y'all have your copies in your packages, but if you look at 40.24, paragraph A2, paragraph A2. It now reads, effective July 1, 2012, a candidate for promotion must serve a minimum period of time in the next lower rank with the city fire department before the candidate may be promoted to the higher rank. I think we can fix this and achieve what the fire department would like to achieve if we start that sentence with effective for eligibility list created after July 1, 2012. So that if that eligibility list is created in May or June, the new rule wouldn't apply to it, the old rule would apply to it. So it's really just adding about 6 words. This is I'm kind of flying from the cuff here, and I want to make sure that accomplishes what the chief wants. But if we say for eligibility list and created before July 1,
Yes, I think it does, because the only remaining phase of the promotional process are the Civil Service Board interviews, and we're going to do those in May, and therefore have the new eligibility promotional list effective in June. So the few words that Randy's proposed, I think, would cover that issue. If they make the list before July 1, they're going to be eligible for promotion. After July 1, they have to wait the 4 years total.
Can you repeat that exact language?
I can try. For eligibility list created after, or maybe the city solicitor would rather we keep effective is the word there, July 1, 2012, candidate for promotion must serve a minimum period. So we'd be adding at the beginning of that paragraph, for eligibility list created. I like the word after, but or we could say effective July 1, 2012, or after. Rob, do you have a preference?
Well, I was going to suggest effective July. You could say effective July 1, 2012, with the exception of persons on the eligibility list existing on that date, a candidate for promotion.
And I think that accomplishes the same thing.
So what you're saying is, except for persons on the eligibility list on July 1, 2012, all candidates for promotion must serve these minimum time periods set forth below. So it would say effective July 1, 2012, with the exception of individuals listed on the eligibility list of that date, and then it would read as the remaining language would read as set forth in the draft ordinance. So it would say effective July 1, 2012, with the exception of individuals listed on the eligibility list of that date, a candidate for promotion must serve a minimum period of time in the next lower rank with the city fire department before the candidate may be promoted to the next higher rank. Now, I can tweak that language just a little bit so it reads better between now and the next reading, but when I'm just making minor tweaks, you can do that, but I would not want to add this entire provision in and say, and say that's a minor change and therefore it doesn't require a second reading, unless it's added tonight.
So you think we have to approve what you say just then as an amendment?
Yes.
All right.
I wrote it down.
Pardon me?
I wrote it down too.
Okay. You make a motion to amend 4.5?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I make a motion to amend section 40.24 fire department promotions, subsection A2, to read effective July 1st, 2012, with the exception of individuals listed on the eligibility list of that date. A candidate for promotion must serve a minimum period of time in the next lower rank with the city fire department before the candidate may be promoted to the next higher rank.
Okay, do we have a second?
And Commissioner Wilder, if I could ask you to tweak that language so it says eligibility list existing as of that date.
So I withdraw my motion. And I'd like to
Read it again.
make a motion to amend Chapter 40.24 Fire Department Promotions, subsection A2, to read effective July 1st, 2012, a candidate for promotion, effective July 1st, 2012, with the exception of individuals listed on the eligibility list existing of that date. A candidate for promotion must serve a minimum period of time in the next lower rank with the city fire department before the candidate may be promoted to the next higher rank.
Should it be on that date? Or it's existing of that date?
Well, we said as of that date.
But he said existing. We
Right.
change it.
Existing as of that date.
As of, I didn't hear, okay. And we don't need to do the thing of saying like on line 19 after the comment 2012 insert the following language. We don't have to do it in draft form like that.
I think
do we?
we're okay
Okay.
with this.
Do we have
I'll
a
second.
A second? Okay, just a comment.
No, I'll note that this was a point of debate whether or not it was more fair to test candidates under the old process or under the new one. And I think there were legitimate sides, there were legitimate cases to be made on both sides of that. But one thing that I think we all agreed on is that the most unfair thing we could do would be to start the process under the old system and then to change the rules midway through. So I think this really is a necessary change, regardless of where you stand on whether or not we should be testing under the old or new system.
Okay, call the roll.
Commissioner Wilder?
Yes.
Commissioner Hadden?
Can we still make grammatical changes before a second reading?
Yes, and we
So,
don't,
like in a work session, can we bring this up next month in a work session and look at, I mean, there's just some things I think that could read better.
if there are minor grammatical changes, those could be made and still have a second reading. Of course, if it changes the meaning of the provision, then there would have to be another first reading.
I don't think any of them change it completely. One question I have would be under 40.06, subsection G, is that while fitness shall be mandatory requirement, the means to obtain fitness will be at the employee's discretion. However, to assist with the employee, the city will provide access to an exercise or recreational facility within the city's contract or at an employee's discretion getting reimbursed. I mean, I just wanted a little clarification with that.
That language is verbatim from the current ordinance. So we basically, that whole new 4006 was plucked out of the appointment because it didn't fit and we didn't, so I didn't change any language in it. It was just cut and paste.
Is it something maybe we're going to look at after our wellness program gets initiated?
Yes, I think that it would be something that would be addressed
Okay.
during our discussion about wellness.
Okay.
Just one point about this,
Yes.
different than a wellness program, or a citywide wellness program.
Right.
These are mandatory physical fitness standards for public service. So the wellness program is a
Different.
means to achieve the mandatory fitness,
Right.
where you may not have mandatory fitness for all city employees.
Right. So do we want to add something in here at the cost where the city already has a contract? Or that we want to allow, employees to go to a different place than what we have our city contract with at the gym we have a contract with?
Well, we want to allow employees to achieve fitness any way they can,
Right.
or any way they wish to. We'll provide a gym membership for them if they choose. But if they choose not to use that, then they can seek fitness other ways.
Would we, I guess my question really comes is that we set up a contract with Active 24/7 for $8,000, give or take. if we have an employee that wants to use another exercise or recreational facility, do we help reimburse a portion of that by allowing it because it's mandated?
Right now, we do not,
Okay,
no.
so should this read at the recreational facility or recreational facility that the city has contract with? I'm sorry, I'm just,
Well, I think what we've done is we've bound ourselves to the gym or facility that wins the bid for the city. And I think anything outside of that, I don't know if that would be an administrative issue to take up, or I don't know that this ordinance would bind us to just that. You know, if for instance, the city chose to pick yet another gym,
right.
it doesn't mean we have to, if the city chooses to offer 2 or 3 gyms or 4 gyms for employees, then.
Okay.
This language does provide the city commission flexibility. So if you wanted to say, well, that's the only one we're providing free membership to, you can do that under the ordinance as written. Or if you want to provide 4 facilities, you could use, Chief Will Hoyt's fitness facility, or
You may not want that one.
you could do that as well too. I think this does not tie you to one specific way of accomplishing that task.
Okay, so at the end of that, should we say per city contract or not?
I don't think you need to.
Okay,
I think you're okay.
I think we're safe. Okay.